Hi everyone, and thanks for tuning in to this week's video message. In a couple of weeks, we will commemorate Tisha B'Av. On Tisha B'Av, we'll memorialize and grieve the destruction of the first and second temples in Jerusalem, which was our spiritual home and center for thousands of years in the ancient world. Now, if we look at the Book of Lamentations, which we read aloud on Tisha B'Av, we hear first-hand accounts of the kind of destruction that our people experienced. The destruction of the temple, yes, but on Tisha B'Av, it was also profound destruction in all of Jerusalem. There was the death of millions of our ancestors, and there was also the destruction of an entire Judaism. As with the destruction of the temples came the destruction of the temple-based Judaism that our ancestors practiced. The losses were immense and were devastating both on the physical level in terms of the loss of life, but also the spiritual losses were profound. Now, in the face of such destruction, our ancestors naturally asked why this happened. And even more specifically, they asked the question of what they did to bring this calamity about. The most often quoted reason from the Talmud is that this was divine punishment for Sinat Chinam, that the destruction on Tisha B'Av of the community and of Jerusalem and of the temples was punishment for the kind of baseless hatred that people felt and enacted towards each other in the community. But the Talmud speculates other reasons as well, saying that the destruction was punishment for everything from laxity in Jewish practice to refusing to rebuke one another for problematic behavior. Understandably, I think from a place of anguish, but also wanting to control this ever happening again in the future, our ancestors wanted to know why this destruction happened. Now, I think this spiritual question is just as important for us to ask in this time where we too are experiencing profound destruction. When we look at the brokenness in our world, whether it's the war in Israel and Gaza, or the brokenness in U.S. politics, or the prejudice and oppression in our own society, or what's happening with the climate, it's so deeply important for us to ask the spiritual question of why and how we got here. As a time to really sit with the question of why the temple was destroyed, I think the 3 weeks and Tisha B'Av also invite us to really sit with the spiritual question of why and how we got to the reality of brokenness that we're experiencing in our own society. I think like our ancestors before us, this time is really inviting us to ask this spiritual question with honesty and humility, with a sense that we, and not just other people, are part of the story of how we got here, and with a sense also that we have a role in repairing this spiritual brokenness in our society and have a role in crafting a different world moving forward, one that we hope will be built on compassion and truth and peace. We honestly and humbly ask these questions of how we got here in this time in the hope that we can begin the repair and healing work that's before us in our society. These 3 weeks, I hope that both individually and collectively, we have the courage to really be honest and really be humble in our reflection on how we got here. And I hope we'll also commit to doing our part to heal the spiritual brokenness that we are all living in this moment. So with that, I want to invite each of us to reflect this week. How do you think we got here to this state of spiritual brokenness that we're living in this country and in the world and in our lives? And where do you think we go from here to build a world that is truly defined by compassion, truth, and peace? As usual, I look forward to hearing your responses to these questions. You can reach me at rabbi@bethtorah.org. I look forward to hearing what's on your heart and your mind.